I'm Mike Sargent, and this is Arise on Screen.
It's a hard knock life for us. It's a hard knock life for us.
Orphaned as a baby, it's been a hard knock life for Annie. But everything's about to change when tycoon Will Stacks takes her in. Academy Award nominee Quavajene Wallace and Academy Award winner Jamie Foxx star in Annie.
You have but one question to answer. How shall this day end?
It's the epic conclusion of the Hobbit trilogy, where dwarves, elves, and the men of Middle-earth must unite against the orcs or be destroyed in the Hobbit Battle of the Five Armies.
Yes, we look similar.
Dada.
No, I'm not your dada. No touching. Stop it.
When Night Watchman Larry Daly learns the museum's magic is disappearing, he sets out across the pond to protect the magic before it's gone and save his friends one last time. Ben Stiller and Robin Williams, in one of his last roles, star in Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb. All this and more on Arise on Screen today.
Hello, I'm Mike Sargent, and welcome to Arise on Screen, your global home for films, both on screen and behind the scenes. So let's get to it. First, with this week's box office winners. The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies tops the box office this week, followed by Exodus, Gods and Kings. The Hunger Games, Mockingjay Part 1, Penguins of Madagascar, and Interstellar rounds it out in the number 5 spot. And in movie news.
Take him out.
You want us to assassinate the leader of North Korea?
Yes.
What?
The creative community took to social media and continue to be outraged that Sony Pictures has decided to scrap the holiday opening of the controversial film, The Interview.
They hate us because they ain't us.
They don't hate us because they ain't us.
The film stars James Franco and Seth Rogen as two dimwits hired by the CIA to kill North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un.
Preceding the interview, you will shake Kim's hand with a fatal dose of poison.
The film lost Sony's support when movie theaters across America refused to run it, citing concern for public safety.
I think that when the threat moved from the virtual world to the physical world, that's when the dominoes started to fall. So once it moves into the physical world where you're talking about possible physical harm, then you're right, it was a little bit inevitable that choices would be made.
Online hackers had threatened a 9/11 type attack on theaters if the film was released. While Hollywood actors, writers, and directors protest the studio's decision, Sony announced it has no future plans for the film's release.
Who's next is right in there.
Can you crack it?
Isn't that why you brought me here?
You get discovered, you're dead meat.
Hollywood should take note. In order to catch a hacker, you need a hacker. That's the premise behind Michael Mann's latest film, Black Hat, a cyber terrorism thriller starring Oscar nominee Viola Davis and Chris Hemsworth as a jail genius hacker who's released in order to track down a destructive cyber criminal. The Black Hat trailer was just released, and the movie will be out in early 2015.
Don't worry about it.
Wish we could use the bumpers.
You don't want the bumpers. Life doesn't give you bumpers.
And finally, President Barack Obama has weighed in on his favorite film so far this year, and Richard Linklater's 3-hour-long coming-of-age film Boyhood is the winner. The movie, starring Ethan Hawke, Patricia Arquette, and newcomer Eller Coltrane, took 12 years to film and has won several awards and garnered Oscar buzz. Maybe the president will bring it luck at next year's Oscars.
What do you want to do?
Today, I'm joined by film critics Justine Browning and the incomparable Julian Roman of MovieWeb.com.
What's up, Mike?
Thank you both for being here. But before we get to the movies, I have to talk about a little bit about this whole Sony debacle and the interview and everything. So my question to both of you is, did Sony do the right thing by pulling the film?
Well, they had no choice.
They had to, I agree.
Yeah, theater chains refused to show the movie.
Well, I agree, and I think that if it had gone the other way and something had happened, whether it was an explosion or whether it was, somebody lit a firecracker and somebody got trampled, then they'd really be in trouble.
I agree.
So I think I'd rather get chewed out by
They don't need
George
any more
Clooney.
bad press, Sony Pictures.
Now listen, they're going to release the movie on demand. Everyone's going to want to see it. It's going to be this whole word of mouth thing. And I mean, it's going to something that it'll make money in the long run. But if you think about it, apart from this being a problem with the interview, if there was a problem, imagine all the other films opening on Christmas Day being affected by that.
Well,
That's
this
even bigger disaster.
This is true, and I think, conversely, and maybe we'll get to talk about this on the Christmas show, if North Korea had put out a film where
assassinating
Obama.
They should have used a fictional place and a fictional dictator like Sacha Baron Cohen
Not a
did
smart
in
move.
The Dictator. They
But there are histories of other films that have done that.
think it through.
But we'll talk about it another time. Well, thank you both. And we'll be back to talk more movies here on Arise on Screen.
When we return,
It's the hard knock life for us. It's the hard knock life for us.
Little Orphan Annie's hard knock life is about to come to a change when billionaire Will Stacks adopts her. The Son will come out tomorrow when Oscar winner Jamie Foxx and Academy Award nominee Quavajene Wallace star in Annie. Next, here on Arise on Screen.
It's a hard knock life for us. It's a hard knock life for us. Static treated, we get tricked. Static kisses, we get kicked. It's a hard knock life. Less singing and more cleaning.
We all know the classic tale of Little Orphan Annie, the young girl who gets adopted by a millionaire. In the new remake, it features the first ever all-black cast, including Academy Award nominee Quavajene Wallace and Academy Award winner Jamie Foxx. At the recent New York premiere, Jay-Z, the film's producer, had this to say about the enduring message of Annie.
Magic, feels like New York City, feels like magic, anything can happen, it's a consistent theme there. That story of hope, just the power of inspiration and hope, and that you can make it from no matter where you're from.
Welcome back to Arise on Screen. So, let me just say this. I remember the original. It's not very vivid in my mind, but I have to say I was pretty disappointed by this film.
I was too.
Justine, I think you felt the same way.
I think a lot of people have. I mean, for a musical, the soundtrack is very uninspired. I mean, I did
That was the biggest surprise.
I'm in
With
the
Jay-Z as
minority,
producer,
though.
I thought that the music would be fantastic.
Played it safe. It was very auto-tuned. I did think Tomorrow and It's a Hard Knock Life, I thought those numbers kind of stood out comparatively to the rest of the film, but...
Yeah, but didn't you expect a different instrumentation instead of this sort of lukewarmed, warmed-over version of what you've heard before?
Yeah, and it's a film that if you take away the musical numbers, it actually probably would have been better.
Well, it's funny you say that because I read an interview with Stephen Sondheim, who did Into the Woods, and he said a good musical, if you take the songs out, there'll be holes in the plot.
Yeah.
This is a movie, it wouldn't matter because they seemed shoehorned in because you expect the songs to be there. Didn't advance the plot at all. Didn't even seem to go with this variation on the film.
Cameron Diaz did not help.
I mean, you're right in the money, Justine. It's a really uninspiring film. You can tell all the songs have been auto-tuned. And you know what? Wallace is very plucky, and you root for her, but she's not a Broadway actress. She's not someone who can sing and dance. And you can tell, and even like the dance numbers are so uninspired. And I mean, I don't know what Cameron Diaz was thinking to take this role.
I give her
that's hubris. That's a lot of ego.
That's hubris. I give her credit for trying to step in the shoes of Carol Burnett.
It's not entirely her fault, but oh, goodness.
No,
what
she
a
can't even get in
parody.
Carol Burnett's closet. I mean, she's totally out of her league here. It's a big mistake for her to
And I
take this
also
role.
have to say, okay, she's supposed to be running a orphanage in Harlem. Couldn't they have cast a real Latina, at least to be in that role? I mean,
She's
they would have
half
sang
Cuban,
as good
but yet
as,
she doesn't look
come on,
like a Latina.
Come on. Nobody casts her as being Latina. And
She's acting, Mike.
I just felt
she's an actress.
she reads as white, and to have a white woman running in Harlem, if you were going to change it, change it.
I think they're trying to turn certain things on its head, making the leads African American, but it did not work.
You know what? I don't mind the racial aspects of it. I mean, if she had been good, then it'd been fine. But once again, Carol Burnett is so memorable, and to go and do that role and just to not be good and really struggle at it, it looks very poor.
They did not update it.
Well, and I have to say, the other thing that stood out to me here is seeing Jamie Foxx sing on screen. Pretty rote. And
yes.
Not inspiring, and I was surprised because I know Jamie Foxx is a real singer.
Well, the problem is, and you hate to say this, but Will Gluck, the director, is kind of out of his league in this film. He had not directed a musical before, and if you haven't done something and staged something of this magnitude, it looks kind of amateurish, and it's just not inspiring. I mean, you want to see this movie and get in the spirit and feel something from the music and the dance numbers.
But I got to say,
it doesn't work.
Other directors have gone out of their comfort zone. Scorsese did it with New York, New York, and let's not forget The Wiz. Okay, so
the
there
greatest film ever made.
Well, I'm just saying, if you have a good choreographer and a good cinematographer and you have a good vision, you can do it. I just feel that this was an uninspired remake. Though I will say, kids will love
That's
this
what
movie.
I was going to say. I
It's
can
a movie for
imagine if you're a
kids.
kid that it does have a strong message that holds up over time.
Now, would you recommend?
If you're under the age of 10, maybe.
I'd rent the other one.
Rent the other one. Okay, well, there it is.
Save some money.
Save some money. Okay.
Or maybe the bootleg. No, I'm just kidding.
Stop. Okay, our next film is called The Sublime and the Beautiful. It's about a couple whose marriage is brought to its breaking point when their children are killed by a drunk driver.
I should have died.
Thank God you didn't.
Thank God.
I was with Katie that night.
Drunk driver is in that room, right there. He's in that room right next to your wife.
This guy should not be walking around like nothing happened.
Well, I have to say now, this was a movie that surprised me because I thought it was actually very, very good, especially for a first-time director, and he's an actor who's done quite a bit of work. I thought this movie moved well. I thought it had it touched upon a powerful subject, and I was with it pretty much all the way through. Now, you felt the same way?
The film does a good job of really exploring grief, and you give them credit for it. I thought it looked more like a TV movie. You could see the budgetary constraints, but it didn't have a cinematic feel to it, and there wasn't a lot of dialogue, to be honest with you. But it is hard hitting. You do feel it. But I think to myself, you know what? If I saw this on Lifetime, it would probably be something I would gloss over, to be honest with you. But it is moving.
I wouldn't go that far. It does feel a lot like real life. This is a passion project. He funded this on Kickstarter.
Yes, he did.
And he was inspired by In the Bedroom and 21 Grams. He's mentioned in interviews. And I have to say, I felt that those films explored these themes much better.
Those films are far superior to this one.
I think that they are in some ways, but I thought that this was a personal film. I interviewed the director for this, and he said that he had experienced some of this in his own life. He had an aunt that this happened to, and I think it's interesting that it's not just about the loss of the children, but without giving away too much, he was doing something so he wasn't there.
Own guilt.
And so he's got a lot of guilt too. And I thought that was a nice piece of drama.
Well, it is very much about him, right? We don't really see the other characters explored a lot.
The wife is not really, focused on as much as she should, especially in this story.
True. Would you recommend, Julian?
Oh yeah, it's worth seeing.
Yeah, I would recommend.
Yeah, I would recommend as well. And we'll be back.
Up next.
One day I'll remember. Remember everything that happened. The good, the bad.
They've defeated Smaug the dragon, but now Bilbo Baggins and his friends must face their greatest challenge, an army of evil orcs in The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies, next on Arise on Screen.